I call this meeting to order. It's the special meeting for November 20th, 2018 to discuss the audit. Let's stand for the pledge to give flags on the other side of the wall.
It's attached to the wall.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Hutchins,
Here.
Detterman,
Here.
Monson has to be excused, Martin,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Oliver,
Here.
LaPlante.
Here.
I'll make a motion to excuse Al.
And I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, let's move on to business, the audit. We're here tonight to discuss who our auditor is going to be. We had to go out and get some bids on our audit. We don't cohabitate with the township no more.
This is a new process.
Yes, new, well, yeah, it's a new thing for us, yeah. We still got audited before, but we used to use the township's auditors. Ms. Breaker, you want to present some of the papers, please?
Thank you. Thank you. So I talked to 4 firms. Lewis & Knopf is the first firm. That's their proposal. They would like to do a 3-year agreement. If you only want to do 1 year, you have to add 5% to their last year. I talked to Pfeiffer, Hannaford, and Polka, and their minimum is $7,000. I did not get a phone call from the other 2 auditors. So.
It says 7,000 per year or total?
Yes, per year.
Per audit, yeah.
And that would be a minimum. Anything they find would increase it.
Looking at the dollar amount, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we have to do due diligence, and that's the biggest thing here is that a lot of these auditing firms, like the one that will take a $7,000 minimum, it's like anything else, you charge more for the small work, because we're small, our audit is, so.
Is the first proposal, is that minimums?
No, that is their price.
No matter what. I mean, if they find anything, then if they do more work, that's their price set.
Yep.
It's a no-brainer then, in my opinion. Save a lot of money.
It's actually less than what we budgeted for.
And the other entity that is looking for another auditing firm is the Township Library.
And we have a deadline to set this by when?
Now, because the audit needs to be completed before January 1st.
Yeah. So that's why we have a special meeting tonight, is to pick and choose, even though it's a no-brainer, do the due diligence, bring you all the information, and that's what it's about.
Well, we're gonna, I mean, my only question would be, are these reputable companies? I know Tony looked them up, and 2 of them when he called back, so kind of questions there.
Well, some people don't want the small work. You know, some are here, they got just enough manpower to do certain size jobs, and it's all about the money.
Yeah.
The clock's running, and let's make some money.
But we have, if the first one we have to sign for 3 years.
Yeah.
And if I recall, did we budget for $5,000 a year?
5,500, I believe.
Yeah, something, yeah, I remember us talking about that in the summertime.
Yeah.
And if we locked in for 3 years, usually have 50, just say if it was 55 or 5, whatever, we're still saving money.
Yeah. Nothing gets cheaper.
Yeah.
I would like to have more bids myself.
We're under a tight timeline.
I know. But if you look at the prices, basically it's one choice. I mean, nobody's gonna do $7,000 over 5.
We've been under the bid process before where you put out 5 bids for a furnace, you get 2. There's just some people, there's just some places that don't want it. I don't know why, and they don't ever reply.
Tony, do you have a number on what the audit was in the past, how much our audit has cost us?
This last year, I believe we paid $4,800, the year before we paid $5,700.
So it's in the ballpark of what we have been paying.
And what was the company?
Last year was Riemann, we're too small for them.
The year before that?
I don't know, it was the Township's auditors.
So Riemann is one of the ones that you called, but you didn't get any response from.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because I'm new to this process, how long do you think it would take them to complete, since it's a small thing? I mean, do we have another week to look into this, to find another bid, or do we think that there's just no one else really in the vicinity of the area to worry about doing this? I mean, if it, because I've never dealt with this before, so I guess I'm kind of gonna act stupid about it. But if we're limited on the amount of companies in the geographical area, I guess we just gotta go with what we have. I mean, we're gonna bring someone out of Birmingham or Brighton or, Saginaw, is that really gonna be cost effective?
And you gotta remember, a lot of their cost too is porthole to porthole, so like
Yes.
anything else,
Yeah.
porthole to porthole.
Hourglass,
We could start, get one cheap in Kalamazoo, by the time we get here, it's expensive. Yeah.
Where's this company from?
They're all over the state.
Lewis and now?
They're, the office I think we're dealing with is either Flint or Brighton. I'm not sure where Christie, which office she's out of, I think she might be at both.
Now, would they do 1 year for 5,100?
No, they said they would do 1 year for 5,100 and another 5%. But a lot of places go with 2 and 3 year bids.
And like you said, Tony, just to verify, it is locked in, these prices that they quoted us, so.
Oh, it's not necessarily easy to find, not that it's impossible, but it's not a quick find to have a list of accounting firms that do this type of work. Even Cranes, Detroit, this is a listing, it'll come up, from 2014, so it's a couple of years old. Yeah. Well, it's updated from the original. Tony, do you have any idea what their requirements are? I mean, I realize that we're small, but, some of these companies, we're just, like, it's a budget, a dollar amount, that we deal with, or that they deal with?
What? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, like, the first one that comes up is Yo and Yo, and they have headquarters in Saginaw, but local offices in like Auburn Hills and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know.
A lot of them have, yes, a minimum dollar amount.
Oh, okay. If it shows.
I believe Lewis and Office, who the library is going with as well.
So we could piggyback with them and get a package deal?
No, because we're 2 separate entities.
Okay.
Try those.
That's a
A
good one.
little 2 for,
2 for 1.
Trying to save money.
Riemann is on this list. Ernst & Young, PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Village used to use Plan Moran for years, I don't know who
They
they use
still do.
now. You still use the Plan Moran?
So Tony, have we used the Lewis and Knopf before?
No, because we've always been
We
audited with
were
the township.
audited.
So Lewis and Knopf is the actual only one that actually gave me a physical bid, so you can see everything that's detailed there.
Yep.
Generally, how long do you think this will take to have done, maybe? Another week to make, to try to research more? Is it worthwhile, are we gonna be under the gun with them and then have an issue?
Yeah, but another week is almost December,
Exactly.
so.
But then you got New Year's after that,
I mean, we have the holidays
Yes.
where
Christmas.
Christmas.
That
Basically,
is-
there's
You only have
3 weeks to get
do
this
it.
done.
Yeah. Or 12 days.
plus another meeting.
For 5% for 1 year is 5% of 5,100,
Mhm.
so 53.35, or 53.55.
But even that amount seems like it's, am I correct, it's under, what we budgeted for?
I would just hate to sign with a company without knowing nothing about it for 3 years, and then they mess up the first year.
Sure, I mean, that makes sense. Unfortunately, just the timeline of this is, pretty tight, and probably even for them.
On the other hand, if you go with someone for 3 years, you know what their expectations are, and they're able to work with you towards making sure you're meeting all of those expectations.
I mean, I don't have a problem signing with somebody for 3 years, but I would like to know a little something about them, not just sign them because we have to sign somebody.
They are a 5-star rate
So I was just looking
firm.
at, so I was just looking at. You know how many companies they work with?
No, I don't.
Well, I guess we got a choice, we can either sign a 3-year contract, or pay more and sign the 5% more and do them once. That's what it comes down to.
Which is $5,355.
So it's $3,400.
Yeah. Takes all the guesswork out of being close.
Mm-hmm.
So that's.
It's 255.
Oh.
5%.
Yeah. So it's, I'm either way with it. I mean, they're reputable companies. Tony just said 5-star, you've seen it too. I can't see them making mistakes. And it's on them if they make mistakes, not us.
And it'll be a contract to sign too.
Yes.
Is there gonna be any kind of provisions in the contract?
Probably basic boilerplate. Some to cover them, some to cover us.
So why is it if we sign for 3 years, it gets more expensive, I wonder?
Because they spread the amount of the cost of the audit over the 3 years.
Yeah. And with general inflation.
Yeah, cost of living allowances.
Yeah, it's $100 a year, so it's, you know, nominal.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we go with them for 3 years. Just get it out of the way.
I make a motion to go with them for 1.
Well, we have a motion on the floor that we have to get if there's any support for before we take a second motion, we don't have support for. So, is a motion on the floor from Donnie, that he'd like to do the 3 years. Is there any support?
Well, compared to the other prices of the bids that we have seen and what we do know, I will support the motion that Donnie created to keep the price under the budget and to ensure that we have that locked in for 3 years. I'll support, I'll second.
Okay, I'd like a voice vote on that, Ms. Bringer.
Hutchins,
Yes.
Betterman,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes?
Peterson,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
LaPlante.
No.
Motion carried. 3 years with Lewis and Koff CPAs, PCs. At this time, too, Tony, you'll have to sign the contract with that. Do they want my signature as chairperson and yours, or just yours? Or,
I don't know if so, I'll find you. If they want yours as well as mine, I'll find you.
I make a motion that, we have Tony Brinker go into, a contract with, Lewis and Koff CPAs for our annual audit for this year and the next 2 years.
So you're authorizing me to sign, is that what you're doing?
Yes. Any support?
So you have made the motion?
Yeah.
I'll second. Thank you.
Voice vote, please.
Betterman,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
LaPlante,
No.
Hutchins.
Yes. Okay, I think that takes care of both ends of that one. Any further questions on this at all? Okay, let's move on to public comment. Is there public comment? Yes, Tony.
What am I hearing? Oh. God, it's like my pacemaker's going off here, what is now? Few things. On a positive note, 'cause I'll start there. Sign out front of the park looks terrific. I heard that was your handiwork? Is that the rumor that I heard? Okay, beautiful. It can be seen from down the street.
Miles,
Yeah,
yeah.
people, I've talked to people for years who had no idea this park was here because the sign, by the time you get up close to it, you're already passing it, and most people are gonna stop and turn around. Also noticed today there were some improvements on the website that actually were not there yesterday, so I don't know who did those, but some interesting pictures and some other things, and that steps in the right direction. As far as tonight goes, I do have a bit of a problem, not with the way the resolution, but all of this should have been done weeks, you guys have known for a while you're gonna need to have an audit done. So to wait until literally the last week, and then get a couple of bids thrown at you without you guys having any time to do any research on this company is not a responsible use of your time. It's not good for you guys. You guys we're under the gun, we're given one high bid and one low bid, and yeah, of course you're gonna take the low bid. But what do you guys really know about that company and have to sit here on your cell phones in the middle of a meeting to do research that you could have been done at home? Like, for the planning commission, we get a packet at least a week ahead of time for township planning. I sit at home for half hour to an hour a night going through it. And that way I'm not sitting here in front of the public wondering what I'm doing. So, I mean, what's done is done tonight, but in the future, this kind of stuff has got to come to you sooner. And then I have a request. Your public comment procedure. Is there any way you guys can have a discussion about moving it, if you're only gonna have one, to the beginning before old business? The reason being, you guys are gonna have, public is here, they're obviously caring about what you're doing. Okay, if they have questions, concerns, or something to add to what you guys are gonna talk about, it doesn't do us any good if you've already voted, and then us to stand up and say, wait a second, what are you guys doing, why did you do that? If you do it ahead of time, yes, you might still get some second guessing after the fact, but at least the public might bring something to your attention that you might not have thought of. And whether it changes your vote or not, at least they are being heard beforehand. With the planning commission, with the township board, and with a lot of other boards, first public comment is about items that are on the agenda only. Second public comment is anything anybody wants to talk about. If you're worried about it being here all night, cut it down to 2 minutes at a time.
Well, we've already covered our public comments with a 4-minute time limit with additional time if it's so.
Right, but you do it at the end. I'm saying, instead of doing it at the end after you've already voted and the decisions have been made, consider switching it to the beginning, before old business. And that way, the public can have their say about, and offer some ideas as to what you guys are doing.
We're slowly coming on board, like the consent agenda, we've moved that up into our agendas, and we will be mirror imaging everybody else's boards and commissions with 2 public comments.
Okay,
So, we're working on stuff, it's getting there.
okay.
Yeah,
All right, thank you, that's all.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Pat Feeney, I will concur, the sign's great, glad to see that. I do have an issue about tonight, because that is a yearly thing. It should be on our regular agenda, and it should be taken care of at a regular meeting, that I agree. But I'm gonna back up a bit. I had a request. I did not make the October meeting, I missed that, but I had a request in the September meeting, and that was to find out the amount of money that you were receiving from the village concerning Tower Richter. Did not get an answer. Now, here's my challenge to the board, because and I'm not trying to start any, ruckus or anything, but in all respect to Tony, she's an employee. You're the ones that should have this answer at your fingertips. That's revenue coming in. If you can't tell me if the revenue came in and what the amount of the revenue is, there's a major problem with people. You need to be able to tell me that. And second, I would say at this point in time, if you don't know what the revenue is, then why do we have an agreement with the village? Our employees should be strictly for us then. Because if you don't know what you're making, then it's not a very good deal for us. That money's not coming in. So my challenge is, we should not be asking Tony all the questions. Some of these answers should be coming from you. You should be explaining to us. Now, I understand there's some day-to-day things that you'll have to determine, just like we do, at the township and they do at the village. But on matters of the budget, that you should know. I mean, that, what revenue's coming in, I'm not saying you have to know the exact dime amount, but you should have, someone should have a figure on that. And I've yet to get an answer. Very disappointed in that, very disappointed. Quite frankly, at this point in time, I looked at your schedule, your meeting schedule. Well, if you can call a special meeting for this, I think you should have a workshop during the between now and the next time you have a scheduled meeting, because you guys got a lot to work on. Quite frankly, I try to look at the positive. Your telephone, still don't get any answers. Tony, I called. I could sit here and pull out my phone and have it get the answer. And that. You are an employee. There should be a set amount of time that you should be in this office. That phone should be answered. I seen the phone bill. We should be getting some answers on the phone. And this isn't coming from any angle other than the fact your programming, quite frankly, is weak, very weak. And when I, with my son, who successfully ran, but we heard people out there. And here's the question: the only time we're hearing anything, the biggest thing we hear is our employees are asking for more money. It came up again. We're looking for what? And that, and that is really getting to the point now where the board needs to pick up, and the board needs to communicate to the public that this is what we're doing to correct the situation. We need to hear ideas from you. That's really what we need. I felt bad for you the last time. You were paying bills and you're looking at it for the first time. Yeah. This should have been out. When was it that everybody saw this? So I mean, let me be fair. Did you guys have this audit before tonight? what you voted on tonight, did you have the proposal?
The information?
Yeah, did you have the information?
No.
Okay, now look, Joe, we talked about this at previous meetings. Why? Why at this point in time? This is not, you know, the most difficult thing in the world. You have their addresses, mail it to them. They should not have to sit here. I feel bad for you. I did feel bad for you at the last meeting that I was at when you're sitting there trying to pay bills. That's excruciating, you know, when you, and you can see that you're like, okay, I gotta make a decision if this looks good or not. That's not fair to these people. I mean, they come out to serve the public, and I sympathize with them, because I know what it's like, you know, to get people and have people like me come up and say, you know, I'm not happy with you. But if you're not having the tools to do it, how can I expect more? You know, I mean, Joe, this should have been out to them. There isn't a ton of information here. You gave very little there, simply put out there. They could have done some checking on their own. Things need to change, because the one thing I did find out is people are not happy at all. And like I said, if you think I'm exaggerating about the telephone and the money, maybe what you guys need to do is do a little knocking on doors, because I'll tell you, the response we were getting was not very positive. I'll be honest, I really think there's a potential here. I mean, I think it's great that we have people that are stepping forward. I mean, you know, you don't need to be doing this. You don't need to be hearing from someone like me. But the thing is, you do represent us. We want to see the money spent well. We want to see some programming that is, you know, a little bit wider based here. And, you know, like I said, I'm very displeased the fact that I don't have an amount on that money. And I think if you really give this some thought, if you don't know what's coming in from what is this agreement that we have with them? We're sharing an employee, but we're not getting anything out of it. So basically we have an agreement that's kind of one-sided. And, you know, at that I will, and like I said, as much as my tone might not have been the friendliest, I really do appreciate anybody that comes out and does stuff. I really do. So, I mean, you know, there's nothing personal on it, just a bit of frustration. All right, thank you.
I only have one comment as a chairperson, that I'm here to do two things: represent the administrative end of the board, the legislative end of the board, and represent the board and chair the meeting. I've lived in the same house and had the same phone number for 43 years.
No, I don't call you personally to find out programs. If I have a question about flag football or a football program, I'm not going to call you personally, Joe. We have an office right here, Joe. I expect an answer on the phone. Anybody want to correct me? Did we not have a sizable amount on the phone bill?
Yeah, $1,400.
$1,400. Well, I'll tell you right now, as a taxpayer, I sure didn't feel like I got any of that $1,400 off the phone here.
I've had people call me with complaints before, so I can handle it. I'm retired, so me and Harold are retired, but I'm the chairperson. And I've had phone calls before, so there's people, if there's such a big problem and people haven't got communication, please call me and let me know instead of calling somebody else that has nothing to do with Township Park.
Joe, number one, these issues that I speak of are not new. These have been going on for quite some time. The fact of the matter is, I was going to let it go right here, but I'll be quite honest with you. When I hear, and I have people, not one, not two, but many people, tell me, yeah, the only thing I ever hear is when requests for more money, giving a pay raise. There has been nothing, absolutely nothing in the last 2 years' performance on this park that deserved any kind of pay increase. I'd still like to have the question answered. Where did the money that was supposed for the football program, who got paid for that? Who got paid for that? Because who actually ran the football program and who actually got paid for that program?
We usually don't answer.
Well, that's
public
fine, Joe.
speaking, but would anybody like to put this to bed finally, because I've heard it and heard it and heard it and heard it?
Are you referring to?
Love to hear it.
Well, the fact of the matter is, the
The
question's
person that
never been
ran the
answered.
football program this year got paid for the football program.
Well, then why at the two meetings, that answer never was given?
It was
Why
never
does it
asked
take
in
an
that
angry
direct
way?
way.
What's
It
that?
was never asked if someone was getting paid.
Was it? It wasn't, okay.
I don't recall.
Okay, then I stand corrected if that's true. I thought someone
It
had
was.
asked that question, where's,
No, I think Tony said in the quote, "I don't believe he's getting paid."
okay,
Those are the words in which he used.
okay, then I stand
So
corrected.
Dan
on
got
that,
paid?
but, you know.
Yes.
Well, okay, so that wasn't really clear still, because I'm going to say that Tony's probably been more interested in some of the, but you know, like I said, simple questions, answers, clear the air. You have a gentleman here who's been, to say the least, a bit interested in what's been going on with this board. And I'm gonna take just by his answer there, he wasn't really sure until just, we
No.
were just informed now, so I mean, so, confusion, that, you know, as you can see, that wasn't, you know, anybody sitting, wasn't questioning, was just a straight answer, you know, and that's it. And as you go to show, no, we're speaking of these are situations that need to be corrected. Do you want me calling every time, you know, you want someone calling every time, hey, I can't get an answer over there? But you know what, I've taken up too much of your time now, and like I said, you know, my experience has been that, you know, what I've seen out there is not acceptable. And quite frankly, yeah, I would expect that one of these members would ask you where that money is, why that wasn't clearly defined in a budget line. This came from the village. It should not be, I have to go look for it, period, end of report.
Any other public speaking?
I'm from a former, instructor of the Holly Parks and Recs, I'm Shauna Campbell. It was hard for people to sign up because they could never get an answer from here. So it is an issue. And I decided not to do my classes with Holly Parks and Recs anymore because part of that issue. So that needs to change if they're gonna keep continuing to do classes or offer classes. It's a problem.
Shauna, can I ask you, how long ago you offered classes? I don't even know what it was, but.
Photography classes,
Okay,
and my last class was last spring.
okay.
I was gonna do it in the fall, but I had to leave my studio early, so I had no place to do them. And so I just opted out because I do the beginner's photography and then I do advanced photography back to back so that they learn and the momentum keeps going. But I decided.
Well, I guess I wanna ask you about the difficulty in signups, and that's the reason why I asked you, when it was, because
We
it's
were
been.
supposed to start in January
Okay,
and I couldn't everybody couldn't sign up, so then we waited until spring and they still had issues signing up.
okay. Well, thank you. I
As
mean,
in calling.
just so you know, I mean, it's been an issue that I have felt needed to be corrected for a long time, where the parks couldn't take anything except for a check or cash. And of course, then that meant somebody had to be sitting here, that there was no online way of them to pay for things. I do believe that has been changed, and I don't know exactly what date that happened. That's why I wondered about, like, what your timeline was.
I have a business account on PayPal and like,
Well, but see,
I'm just saying it's easy to set something up.
Well, that hasn't been the issue of the park. We understand all that. We have the people who have the technology to do that, but it wasn't allowed through the township. Tony, can you clear this up a little bit? Because I know you and I have had many conversations about this over the years of why do people have to walk in the door and write a check when in this day and age, I've been paying my bills online for probably 10 years.
So
I don't think I've
when were
written a
they
check in
supposed to
10
come
years.
in?
Right.
Like, when were they supposed to come in?
Well,
What
I
hours?
understand that too, but, so when did things change over so
Yeah.
that was a possibility of actually online payments? Was it this summer?
It was this summer.
It was this summer
Yeah,
finally.
this summer.
So be aware, I mean, just so that we
Actually, I
can,
think it was like more like, yeah, the spring.
And we started doing football signups, but the problem with that too, and Tony corrected us at a football meeting, we lose 3 to 4% on that transaction. So
And
something needs to be done to correct that
my
problem.
understanding is that that was somewhat, some of the issue with the township not allowing that, like an online payment type service. And we couldn't get around it for the longest time. And now because we have to, take care of all of our books, that we're a little bit less controlled by the township, then they could go to some of this and do that, which it's been a long time, it should have been done, like you said, years ago.
I'm just saying though, if they were supposed to bring a check, you know, they should be able to walk in
Show
on
up.
business hours and write a check,
Agreed.
and nobody was here.
There's the problem.
And that's the problem.
No, and I understand.
I
agree.
lost like 4 or 5 students because it was just too much. And they tried to come and try to come and try to come. So I started offering private lessons and I got more response that way.
Sure,
So,
I can understand. Thank you though, I mean, we need to know those things.
Who is supposed to be here every day? I mean, someone's paid to be here, right?
You're right.
And it's never open.
never.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Verona is here guaranteed from 11 to 5, and has been for the last 3 years.
How many hours is that?
I brought
That's-
that to your attention, you told me, oh, she must be at lunch, cause I
That's
brought my
incredible.
niece and nephew from North
36,000
Carolina here,
hours.
and then you tried to come again.
She's
and
a
she was here.
volunteer,
So,
She's a volunteer.
Well, where's
Yeah,
the employees?
I don't believe that.
there are not
I
very many
don't-
employees.
I don't
Who makes
believe it.
$36,000 a year? It's on the budget.
Well, you have, if you go back and look, then you would see that during the summertime, and this is the first winter, I believe, that we're not having any swim classes.
There's a programmer here, 2 days a week, currently, Thursdays and Fridays.
So there's a programmer gets paid per hour, as well as,
I'm
lifeguards
here
get
an
paid.
awful lot.
But you
but-
have your own salary, that's not
Correct, that is not
based
part of the
on,
salary.
yeah,
It's based on a full-time job though.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to get calls back for the auditing companies? Like, when did you put out these calls, and how come we two got back to you? I mean, did you make the calls today, or
No.
last week, or?
Last week when we-
But you've known about this for months, and you just started looking last week?
No, that's not exactly the way it went.
No,
We-
Well, that's what
I
you
mean-
just said.
Well, we had a snafu with miscommunication about who was gonna do the audit.
What
So,
company?
no,
Oh.
Whether it was the township that was
Right.
supposed to do it,
right, because prior to this year and things, there's been a tremendous change where things that, like the audit had been part of what the township did as their job. And also, like keeping track of all the books, they wrote all the checks, they still write all the checks.
No, they don't.
No, they don't?
I write them.
Now you write them?
And they sign them.
And they sign, oh, that's right. My bad about that. But it still has been, a slow, separation, and so going through a bunch of this.
okay, so I have a statement, and it's nothing against you for it personally. But if they were going to separate, they should have given you a list, and you should have had a
Should
list of questions of what you were supposed to do and what they were doing to make this separation work. And I don't think they have, or if they did, it wasn't made clear.
I would agree.
And that's a huge issue for you guys as a board. And,
Yeah, the separation has been difficult.
yeah, well, it
And
shouldn't
at
have
some
been if
points
they would have,
been contentious.
if you guys would have said, well, what are you going to do for us and what do we have to do for ourselves?
Oh, believe me, it's been contentious, trying to figure it all out. and lots of discussions about this and why, and no answers necessarily, or not necessarily the answers that, or in a timely manner. Surprisingly.
We're still working on this
Yeah.
with the township to come at all, you know, you can't change 60 years or 50 years overnight.
Well, they think they want to, so, you know, if they wanna change it like that, it's called adaptability and trying to figure it out, like, real quick,
Well,
and not over time.
you'll find the government doesn't move very fast, unfortunately.
We're in charge of a lot of money with these people, so, I mean, we gotta figure that out.
Yeah.
And we're working on it.
But we
But,
don't have time to work on it, we need to know it, find it. I'm gonna go to the township tomorrow.
Great, but when everybody else works full-time,
I work
and
80
the
hours
town,
a week,
it's
I work
fine.
80 hours a week.
When up until this year, I worked until 4:30 PM and could not get there any sooner.
Did we
And they
call?
weren't open before, oh, excuse me,
Have we called?
no, do you know what teaching is like these days? I'm sorry,
I'm just
the second I
asking.
said, walk inside that door, I am busy, I might get 30 minutes of lunch.
And how many other board members do you have?
I'm just saying that there are limitations to everybody's time.
There always
Is up.
is.
This is true. And though I would love to have done more, when the time is limited and they're not open, then all I'm getting is a phone call, is a recording as well.
And the truth is, you guys are basically volunteers. I mean, I know you get
This
a
is
little
true.
bit for meetings, but I mean,
Right.
that's something that needs to be acknowledged.
The biggest thing with this meeting is we've kind of gone
I
away
mean-
from our meeting.
I'm not trying to bash you, I'm just,
No, it's
I'm saying
understandable.
these issues are cropping up and they need to be fixed, like soon.
Sure.
That's with tonight's meeting, we're not supposed to, we don't have to make comments or rebuttals during public comment, but we've kind of strayed away from our purpose of tonight's meeting. The business is done, we don't want to linger too much in the wrong direction.
Joe, I appreciate you guys communicating.
You know what though,
I
Joe?
appreciate you guys communicating.
We do.
You know, and that's what I was gonna bring up. You know something, as much as this board is going more towards, formality in a lot of ways and doing things, the way other boards are doing them, which I don't see any problem with doing that. The other part of this board has always been, that it has been a friendly place to come, grievances, no grievances, arguments over, whatever. And when we've had public comment, we never cut anybody off, there was never a time limit. Plenty of board meetings, we sat here with, I wanna say probably the most recent was a bunch of stuff with the football. And let everybody have their piece and explain and ask for more questions and answers so that it could all be aired instead of,
We appreciate that.
well,
Like,
and I
seriously.
just hope that the public understands it, that it's, when I look at these board members, you're right, they are basically volunteers. You know, it's not like I do it because I'm looking for a paycheck here. I started doing this because my son was interested in things that were going on here. And they needed more people. I said, sure, why not? I'd be willing to do that. You know, and I just have stayed on longer. My son is long gone from all this stuff now, and I look at football and roll my eyes. Although I know it's a big deal for people, but it's not for me.
Nothing personal, though.
Right, it just isn't, I mean, but that's okay, I mean,
Like, none of this was personal.
No.
right, yeah. But I think that people need to understand that too, that, people are here with the best of intentions, and that we do want things to go right, and we want the phone to be answered. I want there to be a better way for grievances, for people to be able to air those and let us know. And we've got some work on those directions to do. We do. We've got to figure out some ways to do some of these other things. I mean, personally, working for the school district and the number of years that I've done there, I think we should have, all the financials should be clearly visible. Click on this link and you can see all the stuff right here. Personally, because the school district has to do that.
Transparency.
Transparency. School district has to do that all across the state.
and this is a public entity, kind of like they are, I think we should do something like that. But getting that done takes time.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
George and I actually were talking about this. Your master plan, you guys don't have a separate master plan for your parks from the township. Your master plan is kind of mixed in with the township plan. George, am I explaining that correctly?
Mission statement.
No, not the mission statement,
I
no.
think, I was waiting for my turn for public
Okay,
comment.
go ahead, go ahead.
Do you guys have a master plan as parks?
We don't have we do not have one with the DNR because at this point in time, we're not seeking DNR grants, but yes, we sit down and talk about what we want to accomplish.
So what he's referencing is the township has a master plan for parks. And since, oddly enough, tonight marks 2 years I've been the township supervisor, I never quite understood why the township had a master plan for parks when we have a separate parks board. The master plan for parks should be your plan.
So, the township went into the parks business because they were buying property and they wanted to get financing or grants for it, so they formed their own parks division over us, and they're looking for getting grants for their parks, like the farmstead and stuff. That's the reason why Township has a parks program. It's strictly for funding, and all this vacant land they acquired through the state or anybody else or donations, they gotta do something with it. They're the real estate business. If you can't develop it, make it into a park.
Well, the reason I brought it up is if you guys go through, and I was part of this with the village and with the township in planning, if you guys go through and go through the master planning process, that will involve all kinds of public input sessions. And it would make you guys eligible for some grant money that you guys probably aren't eligible right now because you don't have your own master plan in place. So it's not, it's gonna cost you, it would cost you a little bit of money to do it. But it is a worthwhile process because public engagement, master planning brings public engagement. We set up a session at NOV, and probably had 150 people in that room, just in different stations telling us what they wanted to see as part of the plan. And some great ideas came out of it that us on the board never would have thought of. So it just might be something for you guys to look into doing.
A little notation about, let's talk about grants, let's talk about parks, your master plans. We leased the farmstead from the township for 10 years and turned it back in 8.5. We got grants to re-roof the north house, repaint the north house, paint the barn, roof the barn, and do some work on the south house without a master plan, and got grants for it.
Sure.
Plus, she also wrote the grant to get the barn, help get the barn fixed, done today, without a master plan. So that's what you're looking for.
Sure.
Now everybody thinks there's 10,000 places you can get grants for out there. There is, or they're very small, you know. So Tony's always looking at grants. She's gotten grants for a lot of different times, and her score is pretty good. Her percentage of turnaround's pretty good. So I'd say she's a professional grant writer. If I want to, not that you gotta be a rocket scientist, but she's got a proven track record. The farmstead wouldn't have been long as far as it is now for that 8.5 years if we wouldn't have had us parks doing the volunteer work, doing the WAM groups, everything else that brought, I spent 2 winters, me and Roger Walsh out there pulling fence out, Sue Jillian and her husband, in the middle of winter, knee-deep snow. Hello, and the rest of them were all rammers. We were the only ones that went back to a warm home. Everybody else went back to a cell. But we spent 2 years out there in the dead of winter pulling fence. So that place was a mess. And then we cleaned the inside of the place when the snow got too deep. So, and I blew out the barn, NOV showed up with fire trucks. I had a big commercial air compressor. I opened up all the doors in the spring, blew all the hay dust out. They thought the barn was on fire. It was just me. Yeah.
It was Joe.
No respirator, just out there.
Oh, Joe.
And I've spent a lot of years in parks, and that's the only thing why I've been here this long. I volunteer a lot of time, I love parks, and I haven't gone any far. I was served one stint as village president, one term as, on village council, been on planning, been on ZBA, I'm still on ZBA. Now, I'm on village parks, I'm on township parks. I wanna get involved, because I'm not going to Washington or Oakland County. I'm gonna stay right here in Holly. And no matter how small a thing I do or how big a thing that I get accomplished, it's gonna be for the betterment of Holly. And that's what keeps me going here.
Amen, brother.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
getting
you,
old.
Joe.
I'm
Thank
getting
you
old.
for all your
Yeah.
years of service.
But, I enjoy it.
Anybody else? George?
Yeah, I just wanted to say two things. In response to, there's been so many things out on the floor. In response to what Ms. Dieterman said, and a couple of the concerns in regards to the budget, we have made some moves to better that. In the implementation, the fact that you'll be bringing your budget to the township in March, we'll have an opportunity to examine it, the public will see it. It's not gonna be a, here's the budget, here's the public meeting, and here's the approval, all in the same night. The budget will come in March, we'll have an opportunity to ask some questions. I'm sorry, April. We'll have an opportunity to ask the questions. The public hearing will be in May, and then we'll come back in June for approval of the budget, so there's some time there for some transparency, for some looking at. So we've made a move toward that. The one thing in regards to the motion that you made tonight, as I was sitting here, and it's always, when you're on that side of the table, it's easy to interject. When you're over here and you have to be quiet, sometimes it's not that easy for me, but, one of the things you could have done with your contract tonight was you could have signed the one-year contract. There was an additional fee of $255.
That's what I stated.
Pardon?
That's what I stated was the choice.
No, I said, would you let me finish?
Yeah.
But you could have done that, and then if you decided you liked the company and everything went well, then you could certainly sign the 3-year contract with the next one. Don Oliver mentioned something that I brought up and we're looking at, and I want to address this just for the people that are here so that they understand the difficulty of working with the township. And Ms. Dieterman, you're right, the hours are short over there. But just so you know, my office is open whenever is convenient for people. I met with someone last night till after midnight in my office. Oh, I did. Sometimes we have to work around, I've been very open, I've been there on Saturdays, I've been there on Sundays, I've been meeting people, I've met with subdivision association groups. So hopefully we're a little more open. We are open till 6 o'clock on Wednesday nights now. That was something that changed since I've been there. One of the difficulties, and Joe will tell you this, government doesn't move fast. I came from the private sector. We used to discuss a problem on Monday and had it resolved and implemented by Thursday.
Yeah.
In government, everything has to be reviewed, has to go to this board, has to go to that board, has to be, set up in dates and times. So it does make things difficult, and they do move slower. However, that process is good for the public because it puts a lot of checks and balances in the process, in the way, so that things aren't, don't slide under the radar. So I suppose in that respect, it's a good thing. Going forward, I've had conversations with both your director and with Joe on what we can do to make things better going forward. The one thing that I want to examine is, and Don, you brought it up, why can't we get a contract for the audit for the township, the library, the parks, and the village all together? As you said, Joe, the audit's too small for anybody to pay attention to, but if you went to somebody and offered them 4 audits, maybe we can get a better price on that. I don't know about that. We haven't had an opportunity to look. One of the problems that local government has, and think about this from a business, Joe, you used the term boilerplate, from a business standpoint, government's probably the only business I know of, as in the township. I'm the supervisor, we have a treasurer, and we have a clerk. Nobody's in charge of the office. All 3 of those offices are independent of each other, and nobody has to work with the other person if they don't want to. They're all independent, they all set their own. Somebody takes vacation, they go, you didn't even know they were gone, because they don't have to report to anybody. You walk in, the desk's empty, someone's with all they're on vacation. Well, nobody even knew. And that to me has been interesting. When I come in, I would come in the morning and I'd turn, I gotta go to a meeting, and I would turn to the treasurer, and I'd say, I'm gonna be out for about an hour and a half. I'll be back, I should be back around noon, and he said, doesn't matter to me, I don't care. And then I found out people would come in and say, Sturgeon, nope, don't know where he is. So it's interesting
Yeah.
to create, you can't force anybody, and yet anywhere else I've ever worked, there was a boss. And then there was a next layer or something. And in government, there isn't. There's nobody in charge. I mean, the supervisor has his job, the clerk has that job, and the treasurer has that job.
By state statute,
By state statute,
don't cross the lines.
but there's nobody, it's like, there's these three independents that can go and do whatever they want to, and so it can be a little frustrating sometimes to bring people in
I'm sure it can be.
and get that, you know.
Yeah.
So it is kind of awkward from time to time. And like you said, it would really be nice if you had a group of people that actually got along. But politics don't allow that. People run an election, they run against the other person, so then there becomes that anger and so forth, and it does create, and we've all heard the phrase, politics create strange bedfellows.
Oh, yeah.
And so sometimes you have those issues there and you have to navigate around them, and one day somebody's nice to you and the next day they're not nice to you. And then the next day they're nice, and when they start to be nice the third time, start going, yeah, okay. So it is it can be an issue. But just from my point of view, if you've ever got those questions after hours, you need to know things. My cell phone is on my business card, and I'm willing to meet with people whenever I need to.
Well,
Thank
that's
you.
Nice to know, thank you.
One little comment about, our budget, our previous budget procedures with the township and the parks. It used to be shotgun wedding, little dinner, little dance, and off to the honeymoon. And now we're more of a courtship. We're working better to straighten things out and make it more of a process.
Well, and again, that leads to what I was telling you. When I came in the office, I was hoping we could fix things, and the problem was because the supervisor has no clout over the clerk or the treasurer. They were independent people, and, trying to have conversations. The decisions were already made by the time I got here. I said, I wish I'd have been here sooner. We could have probably fixed a lot of the problems that I found were going on. But by the time I got here, nobody was willing to give an inch anymore. So we got over that, and you're right, it wasn't the best. The sad part to me is, I always look at it as how are we serving the citizens? Because even though my title is the supervisor, I consider myself a tax-paying citizen first. I will tell you this, just to change the subject, but on a side note. It was brought to my attention when I became the supervisor that we had a property owner in Holly Township that hadn't paid taxes on their property since 2008 due to a glitch that was created by MDOT.
Wow.
I got on it and started working at it. Their tax bill was about $17,000.
Ouch.
It took me 2 years. Last week, we fixed it. But I met with Andy Meisner, the Oakland County Treasurer. I met with the state rep, the state senator. I met with people in Lansing, including Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley. I took it to him because I had a way to communicate with him. It took us 2 years. Now, they're gonna be able to go back on this company 3 years, which takes it back to 15, but from 8 to 15, they didn't pay taxes, not out of their fault. And I'm working with the state legislature to plug that loophole that allowed it to happen. And as Joe said, I've been working with them for 2 years. This lane deck session that's coming up in this next month, we're hoping to get an amendment to Land Division Act 288. Then the next session, I gotta work on a coordinating amendment to Act 103 to tie the two together, to plug the loophole. It's like a 3-word sentence. But you can't believe the Legislative Service Board has had to contact the State Register of Deeds to get with the State Clerk's office to get with, it's like,
3-ring circus.
I've had them in my office for 2 hours. We'd sit there and talk. They'd come in and explain it to me. I've been to Lansing twice to testify.
Slow.
It can be frustrating sometimes.
Oh, I know. I work for the public school system. Yeah, I know.
Is there any other public comment? Well, hearing none, I would like to adjourn the meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah,
No, no.
You just declare it.
seven
Any further business?
59.
Meeting closed. You got the gavel.